Hey, what's up, Dean? Sear Performance. Sitting in the Camaro and been trying to figure a few things out. Um, had to pan off again. I feel like this is a Jeff transmission, but no, I'm getting it worked out. The trans temp sensor. I ended up calling Holly, and basically, you can't run backwards ohms on according to them. You can't run backwards ohm like on the scale. Um, I think you can. You should be able to because it's just reading the amount of ohms and then correlating it with the temperature. So, but what he suggested was run like a GMLS coolant temp sensor. So I had one here. I drilled the pan, tapped the pan, took the pan off, cleaned the pan out, put the sensor in, just kind of stuck the pan back up there, bolted it together, and it worked. So their scaling is already in trans temp. So you still select CAN thermistor, you enable it, and then you go to configure, and they automatically have LSX coolant temp sensor. We're reading it in Fahrenheit, and then I scaled it to only show like up to 280, and everything is green up to 200, which I'm gonna change that to 180. 180 there. Oh, it changed this. Okay. 200. No, caution max. What the hell? The yellow's all the way over there. I don't know why that's doing that. I don't know. Whatever. But, so, I did that. And then, I also asked him if the way Holly reads a VSS, and basically for a speedo, you could select CAN digital speed frequency. You could also select it on the terminator, digital speed frequency, but I'm gonna leave that input because this isn't an important input. This is just something I have an idea for, so I configured it, and right now I have it. So this comes all 141, and I think this comes 10. So I inputted his tire size, 25.9. His gear ratio, I wasn't real sure about this until I tried it, but his gear ratio is 411, I believe. So check this out. If we go out, I'll just close all this, and then we will, of course it's gonna, so I got trans temp, it's at 98 degrees, and then down here we have speedo. So works. We just have to calibrate it when I go out. I'll use the phone or the draggy, and calibrate like the gear ratio and stuff. I'll play with that, the tire size, whatever, and get it, on point with that stuff. The trans brake is giving me an issue. It does have a little bit of a drip on the power steering pump. Everything else is really, really good. We took the car out and car works. So the power steering has a little bit of a drip at the pump, which sucks, because it drips right on that damn header. And the trans brake, I am trying to figure it out. I had to pan off. While I had to pan off, I double checked all the wiring. The button does work. Like, it's sending 12 volt to the solenoid, and then pushing the button is sending the ground trigger to the solenoid. It's not engaging reverse or trans brake. So I don't know if that solenoid in the front of the valve body is bad. That's kind of where my head is at right now, which absolutely sucks, because pan's back on, fluid's back in it, and I have to pull it all back apart to change a stupid solenoid. And I don't think that's like any kind of regular solenoid. I think that's like a direct from, it might be a factory solenoid, because TCI, well, I don't know. I can't get them on the phone neither, because they keep telling me they're overwhelmed with calls, so I have to call back. So I'm not really sure what's up with that, but yeah, I'm going to see where I'm at with that, and then I'll kind of update. But as far as right now, I have a couple little things left to do to the car. I got to plumb the blow-off valve to like a vacuum block, or tee off of like the map sensor somehow. Which I don't really want to tee off, because it's a rubber hose going to the map sensor, and my blow-off valve is like a push lock fitting, so I don't really want to tee off of that. My idea was to build a little vacuum block, which I could do. It's not a big deal. But yeah, so I'm going to see where we're at. I'm going to try and get them on the phone. He's blowing my phone up right now. So I'm going to try and get them on the phone, get it worked out. If I have to order a solenoid, I'll order a damn solenoid, or whatever the case may be. But I need to get them on the phone, and I'll come back. Alright, so I didn't finish the video yesterday because I just got a little frustrated, I guess. The trans brake just can't figure it out. I sat on hold for probably a total of like 3.5 hours of listening to "You're the fifth person in queue, third person in queue, call back at another time," but it would just keep playing the recorded message. So I gave up on that. Spoke to Jesse, and he said that the way he had it wired was sending positive to the solenoid, negative was just like a case ground. So I came in this morning, and that was the first thing I did. Was I basically took another Deutsch connector, and I put the 2 pins in it for ground and positive, and then I grounded one side to here, and then I used the other side of the wire and stabbed it into the OBD port, the power on the OBD port, while it was in gear. And it did not engage reverse, it didn't engage trans brake, but I can see, I can see a little spark when I touch that 12 volt. So it tells me that it is drawing some amps. But I don't know what's going on. And I called again this morning. They actually answered. I explained the situation, and the guy transfers me to somebody's voicemail, who I assume is probably on vacation. Um, so I gave up on that, and the oil pressure wouldn't read in the Holly, so I needed to figure that sensor out. But that is a bear to get to with this intake on this car. I could have done it, but the second issue I was having was I fed a push lock line, this one, across and to the fuel pressure regulator. So what I did was I took the hat off, drilled and tapped the opposite side. So if you're getting vacuum and boost reference here, you should get vacuum and boost reference on this side. So I drilled, tapped this side, pushed the push lock in, set everything back on, and I went to readjust the pressure, which you do with the hose disconnected. That's the way I do it. And I noticed there was no vacuum on the hose. So I started fishing around, and I felt that the hose was under the intake and kind of had like a kink to it. There was another hose I had hooked to the catch can. I thought it came off the back port on the valve cover, but it didn't. It actually went to the intake. So I was feeding vacuum into the catch can. So I decided, with that being an issue and not being able to sort it out right now, I'm going to do something dumb. I'm going to pull the intake off, probably one of the hardest cars to pull an intake off of, especially that style intake, a factory one. Holy crap, I don't know why I'm yawning 50 million times. But a factory one would probably be a lot easier to pull off, but it wasn't too bad. Basically a 1/4-inch drive ratchet with some real stubby extensions and an Allen socket. Took them out, disconnected everything, and then I noticed just a massive pile of wires back there, which is the Holly harness, and it looked a lot worse than that. I mean, they were like intertwined, because you can't really tell where you're going when you're back there. So I undid the ground on this side, pulled, oh man, I'm pointing way up in here, pulled this harness out, and then I tucked the two sides under the intake. This way it'll allow me a little more room. You could take the harnesses off and pull them to the sides of the motor, but I'm going to set the intake on there, get these harnesses so they're underneath. It'll clean up the outside a little bit. I don't know, I'm freaking bored or something. This is what I do, but you know, took it apart. But the reason, that the main reason I took it apart, and I already took these fittings out of it, but this is his vacuum brake, vacuum booster. Then he had these two guys in here, one here and then one here, or vice versa, whichever way they were, but they're basically the same. So these point straight down. Now you can imagine the valley cover's right here. So fucking yawning again. Valley cover's right there, so it doesn't give a lot of room to loop these lines. So I'm ditching these two fittings. I'm gonna block one fitting off and then put a push lock 90 pointing to the passenger side. So the intake's upside down right now. So this is driver's side. So the 90 will point to the passenger side. And then this one I have to leave because of the map sensor. So I'm going to leave this one on there. This will hook back up to the map sensor. Then the push lock will be for the fuel pressure regulator and my blow-off valve. So I'll probably take that blow-off valve line and tee it off somewhere shorter, so it doesn't have to run all the way over to the fuel pressure regulator or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I got to get a plug, 90. And then the only bad part is I got to find a plug for that, which I may have in my shelf of shit, my shit shelf. I have a whole bunch of different size plugs. That might be one right there, matter of fact. So I have all kinds of shit in here. That's why it's called the shit shelf. So I'll put this in there, block off the one side to the regulator, then my vacuum and boost reference will be this side of the regulator. So I'll get that hooked back up, but that's kind of where I'm at. Oh, tap. I also changed the oil pressure sensor, and now it's plugged back in. So that's the shorty style one that comes, I think it's like '07 and up or something like that. This is a Gen 4 that I had, so that one won't work with like a Holly plug. This is the one that he had in there, so it looks like it's a fairly new sensor, but I completely forgot. It is a one wire, like I believe it's a resistance style sensor, and this is like a factory GM sensor. And me pushing the Holly in, I pushed the 3-wire Holly harness in, and it actually clipped on. So when I took the intake off and I looked and saw this big massive plug, I was like, oh, that don't look right. But I literally had to still undo the latch to get it off. So it was a little bit funny. But I got the oil pressure sensor in, and yes, I put that sensor on the harness, checked in the computer first, made sure it read 0. I had to offset it like, I think it's like 1.6, negative 1.6 psi, and now it's reading 0. So I got that done. So now I can log oil pressure. We could always see oil pressure. We talked a bunch last night about doing a couple different things. I played a little bit with the boost by speed settings. I haven't driven the car, but played a little bit with boost by speed. The downside to boost by speed is once the speed starts picking up, it's applying more boost, and you probably should tread the tire a little more. But we can refine that, make it work. So I'm going to get to work on getting the intake back on, getting everything back together, so that I'm back to where I was this morning when I started, minus I have oil pressure. And vacuum lines are all sorted out and everything. So I'm going to get to work on that. And then I'll update the end and finish off the video. All right. So pretty much got everything back together. Intake is on, everything's routed under the intake. I got the blow off valve feed teed off right there, and then that goes over to the fuel pressure regulator. I got the cap in the other side, or plug, whatever you want to call it. I also did the hose off the valve cover over to the catch can. So there's actually 2 hoses on this side, 2 3/8. Should be good. This side's got a catch can here with a 10 up to the valve cover. So I took the PCV valve out and stabbed like a 10 AN male thread fitting. I cut it a little bit on the lathe so it pushes in the valve cover a little bit easier. Blah blah blah. Oil pressure works, which is good. I like to see oil pressure in the data logs, because you can kind of maybe catch something. I have been through this trans brake wiring 50 times. I have the original plug that came out of it. I wrote it all out, and this was the outside plug. The new plug, I matched everything up, hooked it up. Now the way I do it is I flip, and I do the button provides the ground. So what I had originally done was taking the yellow and the green, tied them together for ground, and then yellow and green and black. No, I don't remember how I did it. Oh, it was yellow, green, and brown. This is rewritten over here. It was yellow, green, and brown coming out the plug here were all grounds. So I had them. No, wrong. I had the yellow and green were ground. the blue and the red, I had 12 volt key on power. Then I was triggering the black, which I thought was trans brake ground, but is actually lockup converter. I was triggering that one off the button. I never played with the lockup on it, so it didn't work. But now what I just did was I took the outside plug off, and how I have a pink on the outside plug because it's like a factory plug. What I did was I extended all the wires. I used a dark blue so that it kind of matches this dark blue. I used a red so it matches this red. And then I did it their way. This is their way. Green, yellow, black to ground. So I tied all three of those to the case. Then I took the red, which is supposed to be the trans brake, which would be the two rear solenoids on the valve body, and I fed it up into the car, put it in reverse, triggered it, nothing. Put it in neutral, triggered it, nothing. Put it in one, triggered it, nothing. So I know it's drawing power because when I touch that wire to the 12 volt, it gives a little spark, like that initial touch. Kind of like when you connect your battery, after you disconnect your battery, you reconnect it, gives you a little spark. That lets you know there's like a draw. Now, it's not a big draw. Obviously, the wire would get hot or it would blow a fuse or something like that. But it's triggering. It's working. So, one of two things. Either the solenoid is bad or solenoids are bad. Which he says the car, it all worked. And I believe him. Like, I have no reason to not believe him. At this point, like, I double checked all my wiring, and the only thing I was doing a little bit different was just triggering the ground, which should work. Getting a hold of TCI, absolute nightmare. I got sent to a voicemail. The one time they answered, I got sent to a voicemail, and dude didn't call back, which, if you're on vacation, I get it. Holiday vacation, whatever. But they should have more than one person that deals with this stuff. So I just called back, and I asked the guy to speak to somebody different, and he transferred me to the same person. So it doesn't even ring. It goes direct voicemail, and now his voicemail's full, so I couldn't even leave him a voicemail. Cool. So, not real happy with TCI. I don't know that I would ever use TCI, but I don't know. So that's where we're at. Cool. I got everything working other than the transmission, reverse, and then I also wired in for the lockup converter to work. I started playing with some of those settings. So I wired it to the transmission. We just got to see if it's a solenoid issue, which he had said he could never get the lockup to work. So it kind of almost makes me think that maybe it is a solenoid issue. Maybe he had a bad solenoid for the lockup, and now this one just took a dump in the time it was here. I don't really know. And there's no way to tell. I don't know how to test those things, but maybe I'll look it up. But anyways, fuck it. Appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified. Leave me a comment, blah, blah, blah. And have a good day.